Hey everyone, welcome to another top 10 list. This week's top 10 list continues my exploration of the collection that I had purchased from Ryan. This week we're going to go through the top 10 errors that were in that collection. Top 10 errors. There's a bunch of different types of errors. All the ones that are in here are definitely legit. I do have one that I don't know, so actually I'm pretty certain that it's not. So we're going to give that one an honorable mention, and that's the one we're going to start with. All right. My honorable mention note. This one, many of you would say this is an underinking error. When you look at this note, you can see how faded everything is on the second print. Unfortunately, the first print is also highly faded. But when you look at the third print, the serial numbers and the seals, those are very bold. So it looks like the note was printed using too little ink. Unfortunately, I don't think that's the case on this particular note. My first clue to that is the fact that it's the back and the front that are under inked. The second portion has to do with the condition of the note, and you can see just by going like that how wrinkled the note is. That is a clear sign that this note is heavily circulated and that this is probably circulation damage. Now, the biggest question is, why does this ink fade and this ink doesn't? And that has to do with the printing process. All of this ink is actually printed in a manner that it raises up off the paper, okay? The paper is pushed into a plate and the ink is applied that way. Ink is put into the grooves of the plate, the paper is then forced into those grooves. That gives you a texture that you can feel, all right? The seals and the serial numbers are stamped. Those are pushed into the paper, okay? The paper isn't pushed into grooves raising it. These are pushed into the paper, so it's a downward force. On a microscopic level, that means that all of the black ink that you see on the outside is sticking up off the page, and all of this ink is actually into the paper. So if you were to take off the topmost layer of this, yes, of course these seals are still going to be, because this was raised up and this was embedded. I'm going to do a whole other video explaining this and using all kinds of neat little pictures and stuff. But anyway, that one's the honorable mention. I do not think that one's an error. All right, number 10 this week. Number 10, we're starting off with a solid star error. This one is a 1993 $5 Federal Reserve note, graded 64 EPQ, and it clearly got the solid star error designation. And if we look, that's what a star is supposed to look like. But this one is solid. Now that most likely has to do with the center little dot, like you can see here, chipping out of the plate and therefore becoming filled. Now, it's not, I don't think this would be an over-inking error, because there's a lot of times when you can see these stars where they're like partially filled. Those partially filled stars, those I would think are over-inking errors, whereas this is most likely caused from that little center point being chipped out. So that's why it gets its own designation, solid star error, and that one's number 10. I've found 2 of those in circulation, so that's really cool. Number 9, an ink smear error. Now this 1981 $20 Federal Reserve note, you can see clearly, has the ink smear right over Andrew Jackson's face. That makes it pretty prominent. The fact that it's on his face is very distracting from the note, and makes it more crucial than if this little spot was over here. If this little spot is off to the side, the note isn't necessarily that desirable. But when the error is where your eyes are focused, a dead center right on his face, well, that makes it kind of significant. Take a look at the back. You can see there's nothing wrong with the back. Exceptional paper quality on this one. Being graded, I know it's not marker or anything. I know that PMG does everything they have to do to verify that that's a genuine ink smear. So whenever in doubt, get graded stuff, because then you know for sure. That one is number 9. Number 8. This is a partial back to front offset ink printing error. partial back to front or back to face offset print. Graded 45 PPQ, which is premium paper quality. Does it say that on there anywhere? I don't see that, no. Extremely fine, but PPQ, that's premium paper quality according to PCGS. Let's see, 1985 $1 error, and you can see right here and down how the back of the note is actually been printed on the front. That's not exactly the right way to put it. What happens is when they print the back of the note, they started the printing press before they put paper in. So this image that's supposed to go on paper actually got printed onto a portion of the back plate. Okay, so now that's on the back plate. This note comes in and they print this part and they press the paper onto that back plate that contains some of the print, which would be backwards, which is why you can now see part of that print on here. That's the offset print. It's offset because it was printed on something else and now it is reprinted on here backwards. It is offset. That is how that gets its name. A very cool note. Always cool when you find graded notes. That is number 8. Number 7. This is an ink contamination error. I checked the number on it. It does have the starting serial numbers that match both of mine. What is this? Well, somebody put black ink into where the serial numbers are. You can clearly see these serial numbers are green, but these are clearly black. They put black ink for these, and then as it refilled, it kept refilling with green. So once the black ran out, then you get the green. But anyway, here's green on this side, here's black on this side. That is what the true ink contamination error is supposed to look like. I've encountered a couple of these, some at really high prices. I picked up the 2 that I own for about 80 bucks a piece. I see them going for anywhere from $150 to $350. I see people asking thousands for them, but not necessarily getting that. So anyway, that is the ink contamination error. Now that I've got 3 of them, I'm sure one of them is going to find its way into one of my auctions. 10, 9, 8, that was number 7. Number 6. This one is really neat. It's a 1969D, but look at the serial number. Okay, it's supposed to be a 6. And if you look, the 6 is raised so high that the next digit, the top of the 7, is showing. This is what the errors are supposed to look like. Whenever you see raised digits and it's raised a little bit just so they aren't lined up right, and you got to squint to try to judge whether or not they're lined up correctly, who cares? That's nothing. This is the raised digit error. This is the gas pump error. This is what you're looking for. You're looking for that digit to be up so high that you can see a portion of the next one. This note is heavily, heavily circulated, yet that error is still crystal clear. It's just amazing how people just don't look at their notes, because how many people handled this note without realizing that that error was there? I'm going to compare this to the one that I've got, and one of these I'm sure is going to end up in one of my auctions real soon. So this is a true gas pump error. That one is, what is that, number 6? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Yep. Number 5, along the same vein, check out this $10 note from 1950D. Also has the same gas pump error. This time not at the last digit, but in a middle digit. It's supposed to be a 3, as you can see here, and it has the top of the 4 showing. The 3 is up so high that you can only see a part of it, and you can see a part of the 4 that's coming up there. You can see here, stuck digit in upper right serial numbers. Gem New 65 PPQ as designated from PCGS. Once again, that's what you're looking for. You're not looking for... If you have to hold a ruler to see a raised digit, just spend it, okay? It's not really worth anything. There's enough of those going around. You want something significant like this. This is going to be worth some money. That is number 5. Number 4. I found this fascinating. This is a 1990 $100 bill, and you can see as I hold it up to the light, the safety strip is on the right-hand side here. It was graded by PCGS, GEM new 65 PPQ, but it wasn't given an error designation, which I find interesting because this strip on a 1990 is supposed to be over here. And I've had some people debate me on that, and that's fine. Everybody's entitled to that. But what I did was I went and I grabbed a couple others, just to show. Series 1990, 90, 90. And if I hold these in the light, there it is on that side, and that side. The safety strips are actually on the right-hand side. So either these three are errors, or this one that has the strip on this side is the error. I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to say this one's the error, since the three random 90s that I had it on the other side. So that's pretty cool. It's an error, and I don't know that it was an error as far as PCGS, because most grading companies, when you want to submit an error, you have to actually pay for the error designation. So they probably didn't pay for the error designation. That's why it didn't get noted. I'm sure if you were to resubmit it, they would put that on there. Anyway, that is number 4. Number 3. This is interesting. When you talk about an insufficient inking error, this is what it is. Now, this can be one of two things. It could be one of the spouts, one of the ink spouts got plugged up, so the ink was not put on the plate in this particular area. Or it could be that the solvent used to clean the plates wasn't fully removed. The condition of this note is really nice, okay? It is quite clear that there's supposed to be stuff here. You can, barely make out what is supposed to be in this area. And then you have this dark print here. So a portion of this note did get printed correctly, but so much of this note did not. The condition is the key. The fact that this particular note is in such good condition lets me know that this is not circulation damage. The fact that you can still see portions of it lets me know that this happened during the printing process. It's always cool to see the serial numbers and the seals come out just fine when there's so much of the bill that's not available. And checking the back, once again, you can see the back of this note's in really good shape. Unlike this note here, where the back, or the front of the note and the back of the note are both completely wore away. If this was legit, then this would be very thin and the back would still be bold, because the odds of having an error on the back and then that error making it through all the checks and then having an error printed on the front, that's just astronomical that would actually ever happen. So like I said, this note, pretty clear to me that this is just circulation damage, but this note, clear as day, under inking error or a solvent error. That is number 3. Number 2. I had never seen this before. This is pretty fascinating. This is an over-inking error of the seal. Way too much ink applied to the seal, even gets a little bit of smudge over here. And that's pretty cool. But what makes it cooler is I have 2 of those, and they're consecutive numbers. So it is very clear how this ended up happening. Way too much ink was put here, and it continued on to the next note. And if we look at the backs, you can see how the backs also have that inking error just from the wet ink transfers. But yeah, it's so dark that it makes it pretty obvious that there would have to be wet ink transfers on these. You can see on the back there, a little bit of a splash from that. And actually, that's really interesting, because since these are consecutive notes, you can see that on the back of this one, you have that little trail, which would have been the front of this one, and that ink continues here. So yeah, that's how those were, literally like that. And that's just so neat to see that. in that particular way. So yeah, these two, I've never seen anything like this, so I'm going to be keeping these for sure. That is number 2. And finally this week, number 1, another over-inking error, also one that I hadn't seen before. This one is an over-inking on the seal on this side. And if you look real close, it's all blacked out, the entire thing. So way too much ink was applied there. You got a little bit of the splash on there as well. But this one was graded by PMG. See comments. 66, gem uncirculated. Let's take a look at the comments. Over-inking of district seal. So that's the back of the note. Now this one on the back of the note is still just fine, where on the other ones it had a little bit of a wet ink transfer. So the black ink wasn't quite as heavy as the others, but clearly an over ink transfer. That's one of the few times I actually ever seen it say see comments, so that's kind of interesting. It lists it as an error, and then they put the comment on there as well. So those were the top 10 errors that were in that collection. If you learned anything new, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe. Love reading all your comments. Guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.